And now we are here, ladies and gentlemen, finally, for the first... Okay. I was going to say, for the first rant, this is honestly going to be like the first rant since, and probably over... It might be almost a year since the last one. I don't think it's been that long, but it's definitely been close to it. But we are back. And with today's, if you couldn't see by the title, the Book of Boba dropped today. Let's go ahead and switch to the live scene and get our guest on in here. See if he's ready to start. He can't hear me. You guys are going to see a lot of jank stuff. I have advanced to level 3, y'all. It's game time. Already jank now. Let's go. I think he's struggling over there. I think we got him. There he is. Maybe. The stream looks fine. Discord's like flipping out. Like, you ever seen the meme of it's like people are dancing, so it just takes like a video and just moves them back and forth. I think it's Discord that's flipping out, to be honest. Wait. Yeah, if I put my mouse over here, it's fine. I can just do that. Hey, what's good, McKinley? Welcome in. But we are here today to talk about the Book of Boba, Chapter 1. Finally, after the long-awaited, especially after the last season, Season 2 of The Mandalorian, where Boba first came in, hopefully you all have seen that by now. It's been a while since that has been out. But the Book of Boba finally came out today. Watched it. Yes, I am definitely living in 2031, McKinley. But we are here to talk about the Book of Boba, Chapter 1. And just to start off, finally, after waiting so long, especially just for another, I guess you could say, like new series for Star Wars to come out. Like, what was the last one? I feel. Oh no, Visions was the last one. I almost said Mandalorian, and then I was like, no, that's wrong. Oh yeah, and then that was before. So Bad Batch came out after the Mandalorian, and then it was Visions that came out. I think it was like 2 months ago, and then now we're in. It's like, what is it? 2 days before 2022, and the Book of Boba finally released. And it's like, yes. And now there's so much to talk about. Like, just to start out, there's so much to talk about that happened in this first episode. So it's like just to figure out, obviously, just to start from the beginning. It's like, what were you, like the opening scene? What were your thoughts about that? Just now, wow, I'm great at this. I just never realized my desktop audio was all the way quiet. I'm so good at this, by the way. Oh, but yeah, talking about the like just that starting scene. Well, it's like the title of it you said was Holds Court. I just assumed that they got that title just because it was like after the whole beginning scene, like they're inside of Jabba's palace, which isn't Jabba's now anymore. It's Boba's who's in charge of it now. But that's technically his court, even though there's like just him. And then I don't think I've recognized that robot at all. And then I think it was all the factions that were on Tatooine. That's what I was thinking while watching it. But I couldn't really get like the exact pinpoint on that.
Yeah, that robot was interesting to me also because uh, between the Jawas and the Tuscan Raiders, you would think that uh, that would have been uh, something that was already kind of scrapped for parts already. Um, so the fact that there is a droid that has not been messed with makes me think initially that maybe he uh, has some sort of abilities as this robot um, that maybe helps him fend off attackers because I mean it's tough being a droid in Tatooine.
Almost definitely. We definitely saw that even in episode 4 of A New Hope. When we see C3PO and R2 on Tatooine, he immediately get owned by Luke's aunt and uncle. The next thing you notice, well, they land. R2 gets attacked by Ewoks. C3PO thinks he's going to get saved by people. Instead, it's also Ewoks. And they meet up. Long story short, if you're a droid, don't go to Tatooine. Unless you already have a master at that time. That's just the basis and the moral of the story. Droids, no.
No, no. Unless you are a Jedi Master, then feel free to bring as many droids as you want.
As
But
many, yes. Just the infinite amount. If you can fit them all inside of like your cruiser or your ship at the time, sure, do it. But just do what you want. Just do what you want. That's what it is. But going back to what you were saying about like the intro, it's like like you said, starting off inside of it. That's like I know, isn't that yeah? That's where in Return of the Jedi, C-3PO when he says like once you go in there, you're gonna get digested over like hundreds of years. So I'm assuming, even though we saw a stormtrooper in there, so I don't know exactly because they didn't really ring a bell. So I don't know if like the Empire has been there prior to Return of the Jedi, because obviously that
Mm.
stormtrooper was dead. So you assume that he's been in there for a while, unless he like starved to death.
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple of stormtroopers on Tatooine in A New Hope. Um, uh, that was um, only briefly, I think.
Yeah, it was definitely
And
they were on there. Like the only time I think that was the only time we saw him was like you said in A New Hope. But that was because they were looking for the Death Star plans, which were inside R2, and they were looking for three PO and R2 at the time. But you know they're not big brain enough to go against Obi-Wan, so they lost that chance. And it's like then being able to go, and we see him crawl out from literally the depths and like the stomach of the creature up onto the just ground level in the sand, which is funny. Before I came onto here, I was talking to my dad about it too. Apparently, like this whole thing is almost. I think he said it was kind of exactly what happened in the Marvel comics for Star Wars too, which was
mm,
interesting. It was pretty. It's almost. I think he said it was pretty close to what it was because according even in the comics, like it was shown that he survived the same thing, but it's like people like dubbed like the Marvel comics weren't like canon, so they didn't really. There was no like explanation for how he survived. But now, obviously, with the Book of Boba, we were able to find out how he did it, and we even see like some of the backstory to go from when he fell in Return of the Jedi up until after he goes through like all the flashbacks afterwards.
I mean, there's been so many, I think, fan ideas of Boba Fett and how he survived. Um, Obviously, comic books are a main source of that, but to finally get a version of the story that is the official canonical version, this is actually how he survived. Um, Again, just to build that sense of the story and of the backstory for him. A beloved character. I mean, no one knew at the time when Boba Fett was introduced that his popularity would grow so much and that we would get the same actor to come back and reprise the role after all these years um, in The Mandalorian season two, let alone in his own show. Um, it's crazy and it's awesome because Star Wars listened to the fans, wanted Boba Fett, and wanted more and more of them. And here's a series for us, and it starts just how I think a lot of people wanted it to start with him, uh, just launching his hand up through the sand. Uh, I mean, it was really cool, and I'm glad to finally get uh, hammered in of how he actually survived. And it just looked really cool too. I mean, him in the guts of the Sarlacc pit.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
it was gross, but it was awesome.
like just the way that was, like seeing him struggle to get through, and then as you see him, like you see him inside of the guts, just covered on top of that. He finally gets over, is able to get out. Next thing you notice, he's just completely covered in sand.
Mm.
Hey, at least it wasn't Anakin, because Anakin would be complaining about it. Am I right? Oh,
Yes.
that was a poor joke.
It has been known that Anakin's not biggest the biggest sand supporter. So
Hey,
I mean,
I guess it helped him flirt with Padme, so whatever floats your boat.
if that's your style, I mean, hey,
Ugh,
more power to you. I don't know.
100%. And it's like horrible segue, but back to it. It's like we see him crawl out of the sand, and then he just lays there, and I couldn't really tell. It looked like it took a couple of days before, like even the Ewoks. Oh my gosh! Before the Jawas got there.
Tatooine, not indoor.
Oh my gosh! Before the Jawas got there, which even at that point, we definitely saw what they do best and just literally take anything that's of value, which was literally all of his armor, just leaving him barely there, barely surviving. I think he even tries to get up and fight, but just gets immediately nailed in the face, just knocks him out cold. It's like, okay, interesting start, but now we can definitely tell how he lost his armor. Because we definitely saw that in The Mandalorian, and then he was able to get it back, as we saw in The Mandalorian. So it was cool to see how he lost it, since we saw him regain it after a while of not having it in The Mandalorian.
Yeah, and the upgrades that he had. Um, when we cut back to him, in present day, and he's suiting up. Um, and I don't know, there was something about it. Obviously, it's no longer white underneath; it's like this black underneath, and the shoulder pads are like this orange color, and it really kind of revives the suit, the look of the suit. Even though there's nothing wrong with how it looked before, it looks really cool now.
Oh, most definitely. And though it's also cool, even though we did get to see him go through. It's like all this is happening while he's inside the tank. There's something else that I was literally talking. Like me and my dad had like our own like little like sit down and our own version of a podcast, just going back and forth talking about it. And like that was basically the same type of tube that we saw, like we would have saw Luke in Return of the Jedi, if I remember
Right,
right.
right.
Which basically was just helping him like repair him and just heal him back up to physical, like top physical condition. It's like see him go through that, even though it was also during that he was having all these. I want to say flashbacks, but he said like once he got out of it, he called it dreams. So I guess it just varies. Which, even though apparently he's had them before that moment, but then we finally got to see everything, and at that point, that's also still having the flashbacks. That's when we see that he also gets captured by the Tuscan Raiders, which was I think it was also pretty cool because I think if I'm correct, I think the only other time we saw a Tuscan Raider camp was when Anakin went and just slaughtered them all. Unless I'm wrong,
Um,
but I'm pretty sure because I'm just thinking that's the only
yeah,
time that I can think of. It's like popping into my head about it. Unless you want to count like the Phineas and Ferb crossover too, when Perry
I'm
makes
not
the
a,
Tuscan
I'm not
Raider kid
opposed.
makes the Tuscan Raider kid a cake because he destroyed it. But besides
I
those
mean,
two
hey,
times, I can't think of any other time that we saw a Tuscan Raider camp. Even though this was also just being able to see Tuscan Raider camp, I guess from another perspective, because we got to see it once, and Anakin killed him, and they were almost like they tried to fight back, but obviously didn't stand a chance. And then we got to see them threaten Perry the Platypus because he destroyed a pink cake for a Tuscan Raider child. There was definitely a difference between the children in Phineas and Ferb Star Wars, and then this one where it's like one of the younglings of a youngling Tuscan Raider was the one that was basically telling Boba and the other Grodian slave, which I don't think we ever heard a name for that Grodian, even though not to be mean, Grodian survived an episode long, and it gets shoved into the sand and is dead. So I was like, Like I sat there, I'm like, I know this isn't Greedo. Not just like one, Greedo's dead, obviously at this point, because he didn't shoot first. I probably shouldn't have said it because that's just gonna enrage. A fight's gonna break out now. And then also, oh my, I'm having a brain fart. I can't remember. The Guardian, I think, was like a red or pink, right?
Um, yeah, like a pink, maybe with a little orange, like a pink and orange mix of some sort. Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't definitely something that I've only seen maybe in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
When it comes to that color of the species, yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely like something like you can definitely tell. It's like Disney's kind of starting to pull a bit more from like species and everything that we've seen in Clone Wars. I think that was kind of a given, especially when we saw the Mandalorian. Because I think before the Mandalorian, there wasn't really a lot that came like when it came to Star Wars, like movies and shows that I remember that had a lot of like I guess you can say like the species from Star Wars. And it's like once the Mandalorian came out, we saw more of like Corrin or Grodians, like literally almost any type of species when it came to that. Even though I don't know how that Grodian got captured or what exactly happened.
Right.
Mandalorian, the Mandalorian, Boba. I get, even though Boba, you gotta admit though, Boba tried to help that Grodian escape. That Grodian, I guess, just either did not want to try or knew what happened if you did try.
Mm.
Which I guess it would just depend on who you would like ask the question to, because people will probably have different answers. And also, that Grodian was a tattletale. It's like, okay, we're gonna
When
try to
I
escape. It's like, nope.
nope, nope, we're not doing that. Which I thought was um a little weird, but I mean,
Well, it
maybe
just kind
he
of
had his
depends.
reasons.
Yeah, it just, I guess you can say, it just really depends on, I guess, who you would like. Either like, okay, what I'm trying to say is that, so I guess it would just depend on if like he did it because he knew what would happen if they did try, which Boba later figured out what would happen, or he just didn't want to risk it. It just, I guess, it just really depends on which way. Because if we're looking at like he knew what would happen, because he did it, or he maybe there was another Grodian there that he got captured by. But yeah, yeah, it just vary at this point, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe this was a relative of Greedo, and he knew he didn't have much luck on Tatooine. He was like, well, I better just be a captive to these Tuscan Raiders. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it was weird when he definitely sounded an alarm for before Boba could escape. But he got what was coming to him at the end when he just gets absolutely destroyed. Um,
He stood
which
no
I
chance.
no chance. And I don't want to jump ahead, but uh, because I think it's worth talking about when Boba gets um, to his throne and seeing the uh, different uh, people, the different representatives come and uh, show him, basically welcome him, and that was a pretty interesting part of the show to me was when they came and were bringing him things. Well, not everyone brought him something, uh, but
Yeah,
you know,
about
yeah,
that, which I definitely thought it was like that was a weird. I don't know if that had any meaning behind it, which I guess we'll find out like sometime later in the like show. Was like
mhm,
all the other I guess clans or tribes that came in were like all it was always their leaders, and the leaders always brought something, but then
mhm,
it's like the last person's like no, our ruler sends his regards, and it's like even though apparently I guess they expected to get a gift from Boba instead of like the opposite way around, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you show up to Boba's palace and are asking him uh for some sort of, I don't know, treasure or something. It didn't seem right. So I'm sure they'll explain that a little better in the future episodes. But for now, um, I will keep our eyes on that plot.
It's definitely, even though then I guess just going from that moment of the chapter slash episode, whichever one you want to call it now. It's like you go from that, and then next thing you notice they're in Mos Eisley, which even though I'm having a brain fart of what her name was that's with him. I can't remember her name
Oh,
off the top of my head.
um,
We're both forgetting.
is it is it Finnick, something Finnick, or is that completely different?
I think it is. I'm just trying to, because you could definitely, like, while I figure this out, because it's gonna bug me if I can't remember. But it's like, oh yeah, it talks about the Book of Boba descriptions. No longer just a hired gun, Boba Fett renovates himself on Tatooine alongside Fennec and okay, yep, it's Fennec. But it's like, I guess that whole point, she's like his right hand or like second in command, obviously, even though he has to like rebuild, like I guess Jabba's like legacy or something like that. Because you obviously know, like, not just like definitely Jabba. Jabba was like one of the main factors for the Hutts, but like the
Yeah,
Hutts in general were like the like big like gangster scene, but Jabba was definitely like the bigger one for that, and he definitely had his, I want to say footprint, but he didn't really have a footprint. But it's like when they were literally walking around Mos Eisley, she was like, "You should be like on like a thing so we can just take you around." But he was like, "I'll walk." And when they get to that first building, they ask, "It's like, oh, I didn't see you riding in that." And I was like, "He's like, I chose to walk." It's like,
and
okay,
that's an interesting point because what did you think about his choice to, instead of be like the Jabba, like Jabba and the other Hutts that were in control for so long. Uh, do you think of his decision to not be paraded around, but rather to be kind of a little bit more respectful? So, what was your thoughts on that?
it's like, I guess it's like just thinking about that. It's almost like when a like leader or like a ruler of something chooses instead of like, oh, like just show me off and all that, show like they know, even though they know like I'm like in charge and all that, let's just show them even more. Or it's like he almost wanted, it's like during this part that was definitely like you could tell that kind of meant a lot. I guess you can say that, but it's like if you look at like anybody else, instead of them like being paraded around like that, and they just choose to um get down and actually walk so that they don't have to like, well, like blah 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 like this or that. It's like they were able to get down and actually like rulers would take that advantage to get down and talk with the people that they're like ruler of. So I guess it was almost like Boba, because before this he was a like a hired gun. He worked for Jabba, but now he's in charge. So I guess he's just trying to walk around and make his name known now as Jabba's. I get like I don't know the exact word because since he's Jabba's dead, Boba just took it over, which makes sense.
I mean, I think to an extent he was trying to disassociate himself from Jabba because
Mm.
Jabba was definitely a type of ruler that you didn't want uh, to have on your tail. I mean, we saw better explored in the Clone Wars, of course. Um, so it was interesting to see Boba Fett's approach to being the new uh, ruler after, of course, Jabba and then Bib Fortuna. for him to have that kind of more respectable entrance into the city, not being carried around, but walking on his own 2 feet, saying, I can do this. I'm capable of walking. I don't need all of this, all these handouts, so to speak. I can, I can make it on my own. So he
Yeah.
definitely has that confidence because I mean he survived being inside of a sarlacc. Um,
For
I mean that's got
real.
to boost your confidence somewhat. So, yeah, I mean I
It's like,
think his approach to it may be taken the wrong way by some of the people on Tatooine,
oh yeah.
but for the most part, he's doing the right thing.
I was like, you can definitely tell. It's like at first, it just seemed like, oh, he was just like, he's new, or like the new one that's in charge. He's just kind of walking around, just going to all like where Jabba had like all of his business with. It's like as soon as he walks into that first place that we get to see, they get their helmets, which Finnick wasn't really all about them taking their helmets to clean them, but when the actual, I guess you could say, I think it was the owner of the place, or like, I guess the runner of it, came in, then they're like, oh, okay. But even she was like surprised. It's like, oh, I didn't see you like basically get paraded in. I didn't see that. So you can definitely tell like if you had like, I guess you could say like all the big like money and all that, or like a runner or in charge of something on Tatooine. I guess that happened a lot, which I guess makes a lot of sense because you can also see it like stuff like that and like the prequels and everything.
Yep.
But it was definitely, I guess, it's like besides Tatooine, you usually see like all like the rulers or something of like a system or a city or a planet and all that get paraded around. But it's like Tatooine, I guess, is just like all the big business. And Boba not doing, I guess, what was normal definitely caught that person's eye. And they had to like sit there, and that allowed them to take notice, which was definitely, I think, interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, uh, that conversation between the lady that owned uh, that establishment and that conversation wasn't very long, but at the end of it, uh, Boba says something about this business will thrive over my watchful eye, and she replies, "You're welcome to come back as much as you want. After all, this is yours now." Um, Something like that I caught on was like, yeah, I guess he kind of runs the place now. Like this is kind of
Yeah, she
it's
just
all under his
basically
wing.
Yeah, she just basically, you could tell she was like one of the people that just accepted it, even though if it was like any business that was run underneath Jabba, it's like if you didn't do what he said, you were usually like gone. So they
Yeah.
definitely, and Boba's like almost not any different. He's tough to the bone. So he would have done the same thing if they like refused to do that. They definitely would have like changed that fact. Just took her out and then put somebody else in there that would agree with them. And it's like, and then after that whole conversation, they're getting ready to walk out. They get their helmets back, which was definitely cool to see some more people from Ryloth in there. You know, not to be mean, still saw them as servants and slaves, but they also don't own a astromech named Chopper. So we're not on that fact yet.
Not
And
yet.
it's like, yeah, and then it's like at that point you're just sitting there. It's like you get your helmet back and you have like just a bunch of money inside. You're like, okay, just a great way to leave. It's like I'm in charge, but thank you for the money anyway. Just continue to walk out the door.
And I like Fennec's line there to Boba where she looks over to his helmet that has all the coins in it, and she says, "Hey, your helmet I think is shinier than mine." I thought, yeah, that's a
It was
pretty
like
good punchline.
the perfect like. Even like she even smirked when she said that. Like had this small like grin off to the side. It's like I think yours is more, and it's like yeah, there's probably a reason for that. It's like then going from that point, and then they walk out the door, and then within just a few minutes of them being out the, actually, it just now hit me, like, starting to describe this scene, we forgot about his two new bodyguards that he had.
Oh
They were literally
yeah.
the exact same that Jabba had, which was interesting. Like, complete side fact of, even though Fennec said that they would, like, Boba took them in and just asks, like, were you loyal? And they're like, yeah. But it's like he allowed them to be his bodyguards, even though Fennec didn't seem to really agree with that. I don't know if, unless she knew something that he didn't, but I'm pretty sure he would know what he was doing since he worked for Jabba and knew, like, that species for being bodyguards and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think he made a mistake because they did help him with the fight that you were about to mention. Yeah,
Yeah.
they did come in clutch.
They helped him get that. Yeah, they helped him get that victory royale. I was debating whether or not to make that joke, and then I'm like, I'm just gonna full send it, and I did. But it's like going to that, like that fight. I couldn't really tell because I don't know if that establishment. I couldn't really tell if that was the first establishment that they went to, or if that was like their second or third. Because like you got to think about it. It's like they got attacked, but we don't know from who yet. Because by the time that
Yeah.
she was able to capture one, Bubba was getting thrown back into the tank. I'm trying not to get ahead of where we're actually at in the episode, but I keep lunging forward. Even though it's like couldn't really tell. Even though it was interesting, the weaponry that from their or his or from Finnick and Boba's attackers. It's like they had a shield that was a ray shield, as well as a weapon that could count as a blade, but also had the shocking factor when you got hit by it.
I thought that those shields were very neat and very well done. Uh, the the CGI was very very good because even Finnick I think tries to land a couple of kicks through the shield or on the shield, and the visuals were really neat in that whole fight really, especially with uh, every time they get electrocuted um, with their spears, which like you said we don't know who they are, what kind of material or what kind of weapons they are using exactly, but uh, I thought they were kind of like this series. I guess every series has some sort of a stormtrooper where you can just kill them off and it be fine. Um,
Yeah.
so like, so I guess these guys will be those for this series. We're like, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. But I mean, they get their butt whooped pretty good. Let's just say that.
Almost. It's like we definitely see that. It's like they're getting surrounded, which I almost had like a deja vu moment comparing that scene from the Black Panther scene. It's like they're getting surrounded. And it's like the difference between these two is like when T'Challa comes back, but then this one, Boba's guards just come flying in and disrupt the entire fight and allow them to actually break out and start fighting back. It's like while we watch them fight back, obviously Finnick and Boba, an insane duo when it came to fighting, able to compete and to even jump over one another to do like the finishing blows. Even though I don't know if you remember, it's like during the fight scene, I can't remember if it was Finnick or if it was Boba, that one of their attackers tried to either jump on him or was trying to like hit him from behind. They would have pick him up and throw him onto somebody else's ray shield, and you can almost see like the smoke starting to come up from like behind the person who got flipped onto it. That definitely had like the ray shield factor. Because like in any,
Right.
I guess you could say in any game and even in the show and movie, if somebody got thrown at a ray shield, like they were gone.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Which I think was a cool detail that they kept in. Because if they changed that, that would have a small like problem. when it came to the Star Wars universe. It's like Lucasfilm. All of a sudden, it's like ray shields are like can also be lethal weapons if you throw somebody at it. But then it's like, not to be mean, just if Disney, which luckily Disney stayed with what Lucasfilm had. It's like if Disney changed that, that would have said a lot.
I mean, yes, it was still nice that they kept the smoke. It was definitely sizzling a little bit on the shield, but
Just a
I
little bit.
think just a tad. I think he was medium well, perhaps. But he would have been absolutely burnt if we were using other other
Yeah.
logic. But yeah, I mean, it was still super neat. I think the shields, though, the a lot of Star Wars is about um how you represent something, and I think how they represented those shields and the formation that they took, where they just uh circled uh around Boba and Finnick, and it was very intimidating. I mean, and they were taking some hits too. It
Oh yeah.
wasn't just like, these guys are no problem. They were getting some damage taken, so it
Yeah.
was
It was
it was a
like
it was a good fight.
it was like about maybe 8 or so of them. It's like that many, especially just around two people with their shields were able to like you said, just completely surround them. But you can tell, like obviously, which I am curious to see, like what this faction or tribe is. Because honestly, seeing that, like the weaponry and also just the use of a ray shield like that was honestly, I think, pretty cool. But also probably one of the first times we've seen that from anything in Star Wars. But then just seeing, like, obviously they were trained to do that type of thing. That you can tell, even the now I think about it, I think this was and might be like a tribe or a clan. Like, it's not like a separate species because usually certain like planets and their species have like a certain fighting technique. This one was definitely, it had a mix of different types of people, at least that I saw. So I don't know if that had a fact, but even though near the end of it, it almost looked like they definitely had the good use of the shield and were able. I think they were still attacking Finnick and Boba through the shields, which Boba was honestly doing fine with his armor. Finnick, on the other hand, looked like she was struggling a bit because she didn't have her helmet on. She was getting like stabbed on the back, and she was struggling. And then you had the clutch players coming in, his guards, absolutely obliterating. And then that's when the fight really kicks off. And then you can't have a Boba moment without him using his wrist rocket to take out one person. That person goes from yes to just despawn. He's gone.
Absolutely no body left to be examined. Uh, I mean, he fires that thing off, and it not only takes a chunk of that like upper wall off, but it just that guy is nowhere to be. I mean, that guy, bless his heart, he is so dead. It's not even funny. He just, I mean, the missile just goes. It was so exciting though, truly, to see him just reach up and just fire that one off, and it, it didn't even have to hit him exactly, just somewhere around him. It just destroyed him, like it absolutely destroyed him.
It's like
I mean, it teaches you not to mess with Boa because he is just, I mean, he is kitted. He has all of these gadgets and stuff that sometimes, I mean, he didn't even use a jetpack, right?
true.
True. I mean, so he has all of these gadgets, and I mean, yeah, you don't mess with Boba. Like he takes care of he can take care of himself.
Just cracking up. You're like that one guy. Bless his heart. It's
Bless his
just
heart.
gone.
Just I mean, absolutely
It's like
no clothes, no
that.
bones even. I mean,
Like
just gone.
he could have hit next to the guy and still killed him, but no. Boba chose to direct impact him with that rocket, leaving nothing behind. No body, no clothes, no nothing. Just gone. So you're like, man, when the two of them still get away, which then leads to that chasing with Finnick. Just a small fact that even though it's a small rocket, it's also Boba Fett. that one rocket takes out an entire human being, leaving nothing behind, and still breaks some of the wall. You're like, huh.
I wonder if there was ever a cut where that one rocket just like blows up that entire building. Just like the whole
It's
the
like
whole building just is gone.
they just thought about it. They're like, should we just take out that whole building or like just that whole section of the wall with that one rocket? It's like, did you want to blow up the guy too? Yeah, we're just gonna make sure he just despawns basically. Like he doesn't even dare. Like the game code just went error. Entity does not exist anymore. Hey, yeah, let's just do that and then take out some of the wall. Like you can see exactly where the guy was on that wall. It's like after he's just gone, you can still see where the rocket hit along with the small chunk, which is still cool. But it's like, bro, Boba, Boba is scary. It's like the best way of putting that. Or at least
Don't
just
mess with them.
yeah, just don't get on his bad side and do what he says. If you don't, you're not gonna exist anymore. Apparently.
Control Alt Delete. I mean, it's as easy as that.
Oh, I did forget about that. I don't know why it popped into my head. But it's like we're talking about that when Finnick mentioned this was like once I get near the beginning, we're jumping back and forth. I keep remembering certain bits of it. It's like when they're all coming in here. It was the last person that's like, "Oh, my leader sends his regards and all that." Finnick literally says, "If this was Jabba's palace, he would have fed you to his Ragnar by now." They opened up the ground and he would have fallen straight down. You know,
Hmm.
I almost started that just not hit me. I'm wondering what happened if they do like Boba. I wonder if Boba would get a like a Ragnar just to keep down there. That's unless he does something else with that area, but this also isn't um like home restoration with Boba Fett.
Next episode on Boba Fett, and it's
Chapter
just him
2.
like picking out a couch. He's like
He's like picking out.
he's selecting like carpet and stuff.
He's like, we're just gonna renovate this whole area. And Phoenix just staring at us. I'm like, what the heck are you doing?
He's like trying to run an Airbnb in his basement.
Oh, it's like
And I would watch every minute of it, and
it'd
we
be
would
the
come
funniest
on here
thing.
and we would do a podcast. We
a
would do an
whole
episode
a whole
of this.
episode just dedicated to him picking out carpet and a couch.
I would watch it
But
and I would discuss it.
it's like he's like, yeah, I'll take that furniture. Oh, that flooring looks really nice. Definitely take the Ragnar Ragnar. And we definitely oh yeah, I'll take that translator droid right there. Yeah, I would definitely need that because we had problems with the gifts yesterday, so we're just gonna just that's a must. Well, you know something? We'll get the translator droid, then we'll get the couch. Solid.
Get like a nice Wookiee rug and
Oh, if the Wookiee has a belt on it, I'm done. Actually, no, it can't because Chewbacca has to stay for the sequels.
I would just retcon that.
It's like this is like, nah, we want it to be like this. We're gonna break the canon real quick. It's like you wrote the canon. Don't change
We
it for
are
a
the
rug.
canon.
We are the canon.
Somehow Chewbacca has returned.
As a rug. It's just the Chewbacca suit, just on the ground.
Okay, but to try to segue back to what might actually happen,
It was such a rabbit hole.
and it still is because my next question is: does he just like become a troll and like when people like if someone upsets him and he like puts like a bunch of pillows down there and he like pulls the lever and you think you're about to fall into like a rancor pit and then you just fall on a bunch of pillows. You're like, wait, Why am I still alive?
It's
He's just an ultimate
like,
troll. He just
nah,
puts random stuff down there.
like, oh, you bugged me a little bit, but you know something? I'll just put you down there. You can sleep if you want. It's just up to you. Like, there's maybe a couple of bugs or creatures down there. Don't know what's down there. Just have fun. But then if you're really gonna, it's if you really get him mad, it's then you're gonna become his next decoration on his wall. Hint, hint, Han Solo and Carbonite. Hey,
I mean,
you never know. It's why'd you do that to him? It's he's no good to be dead. It's just one of those moments. Okay, segue back to where we were now. That's not even a segue. We're just literally taking a sharp right turn.
a
Oh
very
my!
hard right turn.
Almost a full 180. Let's just go back to where we started instead of doing that. Because that rabbit hole
Oh,
started with
hi, my
me.
name is Chace. Welcome to the channel.
Oh no. 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 Okay, we were talking about a guy just disintegrating and the wall exploding. Shows how much punch that he packs in just his wrist. Which definitely you could tell, just the detailing on that was also we even saw that type of thing with the Mandalorian with his armor too, and he was able to block stuff like that, swords and everything, which definitely you could tell that material was strong. And it's after we see him shoot the person, that starts the chase scene with Finnick and then the two other guys, which I'm sitting on man, they hired legit parkour professionals for this scene.
Experts. I mean, well, not unstoppable because they certainly were stopped. But I
By
mean,
a
they were
bigger
going.
brain.
They were going, and it was really neat to see. I really enjoyed that
Didn't
sequence.
even at that point, Finnick catches up to him, but then it's still 2-on-1. They pull out their shield and their weaponry, and then she literally just jumps off the building. I'm well, this is kind of lame. I'm oh wait, isn't she gonna jump up here in a couple of seconds? As soon as I'm starting to think that she jumps up, it's just sitting there, takes them both on, is able to get one of their weapons, and just looks at the one standing off to the side, looks back at the one in front of her, hits him off, and then points it back at him. It's okay, you win. You win.
And something else that's funny is, we talk about Boba absolutely just disintegrating that guy, and then the two, that you just mentioned start to run off. Uh, when Finnick is about to chase them, Boba looks at it and says, "Alive."
True.
So he can blow people up. Finnick can't kill anyone.
He's hey, I took one of them out. We don't need any more out. We need to figure out where they came from.
And even she is well,
okay.
one will do, and just kicks the one right off of the side of the building.
I think it would have been really funny if you looked at her. It's they're no good to me, dead. Just bring back a quote from the original. It's yes. Which I guess that was technically a reference to it. In a way,
Yeah.
I guess you could say. But still, yes, that is a very valid point. Even though they were just destroying down there, end quote, 3 get away, then 5 seconds later, 2 get away because one just disintegrates. Which then led to the chase scene, and then her being able to capture one. Which is then, at that point, by the time she's able to get one so that she can, bring him in so that they can figure out where he came from, that's also to the point where we see the two guards carrying Boba. Unlike what we saw at the beginning, where he's barely in anything except for I guess you could say underwear. Making sure he's basically healing up, and then he comes back. But then in this scene, they literally just throw him in there. They make sure his helmet and his armor is off, throw all that to the side, and then just shove him in there, put the breather on, and close it. Which is then where we see and find out how he was able to escape from the Tuscan Raiders and what exactly happened during that moment. Boba.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you had mentioned it earlier about not really having ever saw the Tuscan Raiders to the extent that we have in this episode, where we saw kind of what they refer to as and in them kind as scavengers and uh, the sand people that would cause trouble. To see where they live and kind of how they work um, as a tribe. It was interesting to see that behind the scenes, uh, and we see even more of it here. We see what we think is their leader, um, that
Hmm.
eventually warms up to Boba a little bit, or at least Boba earns some respect. But I don't want to jump the gun and say exactly why he earned that respect. So let's just start at where the dream starts, when he gets back into the tank, which is um, he, I believe, is taken with that Greedo impersonator, um, and he's taken by a Tuscan, and also like their little watch. I don't know
Like
what
the what?
that
I can't
little.
remember what that creature is either, but it's the basically their type. I almost want to say they're either their watchdog or their pet. And it's like,
Right, or maybe both.
even though I don't know, I definitely noticed, but it was oh, what was it? It's like we see him like right as the dream starts. You can see what happens after he tried to escape. He gets tied up, not just like by the wrist. He got like his whole arms got tied down, so he couldn't really do a lot. Which I guess don't know if that Grodian had the same problem. We definitely didn't see him with it, so I don't know. That's like at that point, even though the Tuscan Raider that's in charge of both of them, like the Grodian and Boba as prisoners, is I guess a youngling for the Tuscan Raiders, basically like a child at that time, which is definitely interesting to see how it was a child that was in charge of the prisoners, which I guess makes somewhat sense. But then it was at that point the Tuscan Raider comes over, basically collects them both, which now that I think about it, it's like we saw the Grodian tied up and we see Boba tied up, but then as they're walking, that's when we see them chained up, like at the ankles. So I guess like even
Right.
if Boba tries to make an escape, he's not gonna get that far if the Grodian doesn't go that far. But
Yeah, I
then,
mean, it was interesting to see also that they had added the chain around their ankles because I think the Grodian was frankly a little bit lazy, or maybe just content with being captured. I don't
yeah,
know why, but I mean, he wasn't going very far. So yeah, I
yeah,
mean, it was just another way to keep Boba there.
it was definitely. I almost wanted to say like the Grodian, like I guess you could say he was kind of maybe you could say he was like scared or a little too I guess you could say chicken when it came to this because he did not want to try escaping. He didn't want to do anything because then it's like they took the Tuscan Raider. They took the Tuscan Raider. The Tuscan Raider took them too, which was interesting. I don't know really the purpose behind why the Tuscan Raider took them to look at that like property,
Mm.
even though that honestly kind of looked like Luke's and like Uncle Ben and all that. It looked like their place, but that's a side fact. Even though it looked like they just got robbed. Even though seeing this, like when I was watching it, I had like the small feeling like they like Boba and that Grodian just got sold like as slaves,
Mm.
which kind of anyway. The but I didn't know if that's what was the case, unless if it was, but then it fell through because those people got obviously robbed and then everybody just took off.
Yeah, I don't. Obviously, I agree that that hut that visited did look a lot like uh, where Luke's aunt and uncle lived. And to a point, I almost forgot. that where this took place in the timeline, and I was like, are we about to see, that exact thing happen? And then I was like, wait a minute, this is way past that. Um, that happened all the way back in A New Hope, and we are past Return of the Jedi now. So
Just by
no
a few
chance of seeing
years.
that. Just yeah, time
Just
travel.
just a f- just a
I
few.
mean, technically they could. Rebels did introduce a lot of time travel mechanics, but that's a whole different episode, I think.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, it was, the youngling being in charge of the prisoners was interesting because it makes sense because it's like kind of a chore almost.
yeah, I could see that.
Um, but also like, wouldn't you want like a big like grown up Tuscan to be like in charge of these guys? Because I mean, you want your best guard to be watching over these people. Otherwise, they will sooner or later escape. So it was kind of a interesting choice to make the youngling in charge of the hostages, so to speak.
Yeah. Unless it was because that they had him chained up and they knew that the Rhodian wasn't going to like escape or attempt to, because obviously like we saw
Hmm.
him, Boba tried to do it once, didn't work because of the Rhodian. So I guess it might have just been because of that. Like they knew Rhodian wasn't gonna try to escape, so all they had to do is just make sure if the Rhodian doesn't get away, they knew Boba wasn't gonna get away, especially with them being chained up together. And it was like even from that point, they watched that farm get robbed. After that, they start. I don't know if they started to walk back towards the camp, or if that's what the Tuscan Raider was told to do, was to take him to that area, just have him dig for water. Which you can definitely tell. I don't know about the Rhodian, but you can definitely tell Bobo was thirsty, and that probably didn't help that he tried to escape as well. That's like even though the Rhodian was, I guess, like just popping off with finding like everything, or like the things that contain, which I don't even know what those things were that contained the water, but like the Rhodian was able to find a lot of them, and Boba finally finds one, drinks some of it, and almost gets attacked, but he's able to pull it up. You know, it was at that point that's when we learned that it was a Tuscan Raider like youngling.
Mm.
When he just like stares like into the Tuscan Raider's eyes and it's like, I'm thirsty. It's just like it's the best move I've ever seen. It's like I don't care. It's like it is holding the weapon. It's just I'm thirsty, and then puts it down and gives it over. But then the Tuscanator just does the thing right back and just dumps the water right in front of him. It's like okay. It was like then after that you could see a little time goes by. It's like then the Tuscanator's just lying down, the creature, or I guess you could say like the watchdog, falls asleep, and that's at that point that's when the Rhodian finds the creature in the sand. Which, like, what were your thoughts when you saw the Rhodian digging that up?
Well, at first I thought, did he just like hit a jackpot of this like water supply that they've been digging for? And I was like, this is gonna be great. Like he's gonna get so many brownie points, and he's gonna dig this thing up, and it's going to be insane. Because I mean, look at all this water. And then it starts to move, or at least an arm kind of starts to pop out of the ground. I'm thinking this went from 0 to 10 very quickly.
It's like, yeah, the Rhodian's like, oh, what did I find? All of a sudden, his arm gets grabbed, and then his neck gets grabbed, and you're like, it's like, oh shoot, this went back to zero real quick. I was like, dude, like I was sitting there the whole time, like I don't think I've ever seen that creature before, at least to my knowledge, in like any of the shows or any of the movies. You know, I think
Yeah.
I mentioned it, or because I was curious about it too. Mentioned it to my dad about it, and he said that creature has shown up. I think it was in the comics before. I guess almost in the same scenario or close to it, which I thought was interesting. But even at that point, that's when we start to see the Rodian loses the fight after the creature finally emerges from the ground, and the first person that creature goes for is the Rodian. It's like, hey, thanks for digging me up.
Yeah.
Now you're dead. Your turn to go down there. It's like, oh snap! Like even at that point, you can like, I think Boba tried to fight back at first, but the creature with obviously many arms or legs was able to grab Boba and just keep him, just left him hanging off to the side. Which I still thought was interesting, even though the creature didn't really try to do anything with Boba, but he was taking care of the Rodian first. And at the same time, the Tuscan Raiders just sitting there, not knowing at all what to do. Even though the Tuscan Raider did attempt to attack the creature, puts a stick through the foot, and then gets swatted away. I was like, nice. And then giving the creature a weapon.
That probably dealt like 1 HP of damage to him.
My man rolled a D2. I just got a 2. It's like, critical fail. You did nothing, the creature just swats you away.
Little did you know that actually helped his foot. Like somehow.
It just helped his attack, dude. The creature. It's like, oh, you got it too? Well, you stab the creature in the foot, dealing 1 damage. Creature swats you away. And then, but in the process, you help the creature out by giving them a weapon. And the creature then takes out of his foot and starts swinging it around. It's like, nice.
And I think I recall Boba actually being held up by one of the arms of the creature, and I think another one of the arms did land like a punch straight to Boba's face.
Yeah, I think I think he might have been trying to either knock him out or something else, just to, I guess, keep him from like struggling to try, but didn't really work because, well, it's Boba. He was already a beast nonetheless. And then he goes from that. No, I can't remember, because obviously I think Boba either just, doesn't Boba just get dropped when he gets stabbed, or the creature gets stabbed in the foot? Because that's how he was able to get away, which then, yeah, that makes sense. Because then once gets dropped and is able to back away for a second, that's when the creature takes the weapon out of his foot and starts going after the Tuscan Raider. Which then leads to, like, probably, honestly, one of the cooler part. I want to, yeah, definitely a cool part of the episode.
Very cool, and how it played out was
Just
exactly how I wanted it to play out. I mean, it was like, as someone who, I mean, I've watched this episode twice, and the first time I didn't know what he was digging up. I didn't know that it would turn into this kind of miniature boss fight. I was here for it, man. I was hyped. I was hyped for it. As soon as he found the ground and started just, I mean, causing so much chaos, I was here for it, and it made for a really good heroic moment for Boba Fett.
Most definitely. Which then, it was honestly because of that. And that's when we see, I think it was at that point that the Tuscan Raider was definitely like thankful that Boba was able to do that. Which I think the funniest way was the way I heard my mom describe it. It's like seeing Boba come back with the chains in his hand, not attached to him. It's like, oh yeah, I just did that. Just walking away, I was like, yep, yes he did. Which definitely shows. Even though I think it was interesting, even though at the end of it, I was starting to wonder if that creature was a threat to the Tuscan Raiders, because when that Tuscan Raider came back, like the youngling came back with the head of the creature, definitely looked like all the rest of like his family or like that tribe of Tuscan Raiders was like thrilled and almost in disbelief that what they were seeing with the Tuscan Raider with the head. So I'm assuming that that creature has been or has dealt with the Tuscan Raiders and has done harshly to them. I guess you could say.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they were in shock that here comes this youngling with this uh, head that's almost too big for him to carry,
The size of
and
like his stomach and his chest.
he's like, and then you know how he's describing it. He like holds up his stick to his throat and is like reenacting how uh, Boba killed the monster. Um, it was just, it was very clever, and I mean, that's what I want from a you know, if we're gonna have a random encounter in Tatooine,
Oh yeah,
you know, just someone just popping out of the ground and like causing a bunch of chaos,
bunch of chaos.
ending with his head being just sliced right off. Yeah, that was really cool,
You
really
know,
really cool.
they completely left the Rodian in the dust, literally. But I guess they don't want to carry around a corpse, so it just made sense. There's like seeing them all come back, the youngling Tuscan Raiders, just like going on, like tell I guess either telling the story. I'm assuming he was just telling the story of what happened, because you can definitely tell by like the Tuscan Raider like leader. It's like walking around, kind of walking out there, listening to it. Then walks over to Boba and hands him like the thing that he was able to drink from, which was like the fun. Was like that's like the coolest respect moment that we could definitely see from that entire episode, especially for Boba, most definitely.
Yes, I mean, finally getting drink. He wanted that drink. He got that drink. Darn it!
This whole
And you know, it's
episode was
funny.
for the drink, dude. He did it for the drink.
Why isn't this episode just called "The Drink"? Um, but you know, it was a great payoff, like you said. It was a great moment of respect for the character of Boba, and also, you know, that's obviously a dream or flashback that that you know at a time we are seeing where he had no source of water, and you think about him like in present day, like now all of a sudden he's like this king of this palace, and he's now like a leader. But we get to see that in this flashback, like he had to work for the water, and like he was like he was a captive, and so the plot of like seeing how you know he had to overcome so much um to get to where he's at now as a leader, where he's like he could be like enslaving people and putting them in the similar positions that he was in. You know, it shows that he is definitely worthy of the palace and the throne. So it was a really neat way to end the episode.
Almost definitely. Especially, it's like just sitting there. It's like this was definitely something I was starting to compare to like the first season of The Mandalorian. It's like the first episode or chapter was like literally the best way to start it off, and the Book of Boba Fett did did almost the exact same. It was like a great way to like capture. It's like everybody's been like waiting for this series finally coming out. It's like it's draw. I could definitely tell it's gonna draw more people into it and capture them because that was definitely a great way for them to start off the series.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think it was what everyone was hoping for. Um, from a show called The Book of Boba Fett. Uh, it was definitely kind of opening us up to his life from where we left off at Return of the Jedi, and seeing how he survived, and then also seeing kind of the path that he's about to go down as a leader. Yeah, I mean it was a great first episode. And I do want to ask you, what do you hope for with the rest of these episodes?
As of right now, because like they definitely like it was cool what they were doing in this episode, kind of going from like where he ended up in Return of the Jedi and then going to present day, and then going back, which then led him back to present day as well. And then we also know where was able to get the armor back from in the Mandalorian. So just all of that. This episode was definitely like, was showing what happened in between, which is definitely cool. But then they also left us like before he went back into like his tank, or like the last bit of the chapter. They definitely left us with like looking forward to figuring out who, not just who attacked them, but who sent them as well to be attacked.
Mm.
Because there's obviously some, I would assume there's going to be some reasoning behind that. It's just going to be interesting to see what that reasoning is, which hopefully we'll have to find out. I'm hoping for the next episode, or at least the next two episodes where we figure that out. Just depends on how much they want to, like how much is based into that fact of why they got attacked.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just gonna look up real quick because I can't remember how many episodes are supposed to be in this first season. Um,
And I did, even though, all right, there's something that did hit me. So while I was watching it, was before today, I saw Epic Games was like, oh hey, like they have the Boba Fett skin in Fortnite, not sponsored, but they had that. So you can get Boba Fett, the slave one, an emote for him as well, and then the harvesting tool that they had, which I don't know if there's meaning behind this that we'll come to find out in the next episodes. But what we saw, like the leader of the Tuscan Raiders, when he was like the staff thing that he was holding, that was the harvesting tool that they gave to Boba in it. So I'm like knowing that before I watched it, I almost started to wonder if somehow Boba. Oh no, Boba didn't he have that in the Mandalorian as a weapon?
yeah,
So
yeah.
that might be what.
Um, I think so.
'Cause if he did, I wonder if the Book of if they're gonna like show how he was like acquired that and how he was able to keep it. Even though I wonder if he just got it from like as of respect from the Tuscan Raiders, but we're not too sure
Right.
yet. So we still have another couple, the rest of the series to find out exactly what happened. There's definitely a lot that can come out of this, and I am honestly extremely excited and eager to find out and waiting for the next episodes to come out.
Yes, 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 yes. I mean, in terms of cameos, I mean, I've heard everyone from this side of YouTube to the other side, and this side of the media to the other side, because everyone has their own
Yeah.
speculation. And so, do you think that we will get a cameo of Mandalorian or of Han Solo or Luke Skywalker? I mean, something big like how Luke Skywalker actually truly showed up at the season finale of Mandalorian season 2.
Yeah. I think it would be cool to, if we could see, like, if somehow Han Solo and Chewbacca come into play. I don't know. Like, maybe they have to look for work, so they came and find and, like, heard of what Boba was doing. Like, that would be something that'd be pretty cool. Obviously, it's going to have to be CGI, at least a CGI face for Luke, but wouldn't be as bad, or for Luke, but for Han. But then it's like, you can go from that. But it'd also be cool. If not, I think unless because we only saw like Boba come into the Mandalorian, so I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna need to go back and rewatch that just to see, make sure I didn't miss anything from it. And it's like unless the Mandalorians like might cross paths with Boba to be like, because obviously this is after like the actual season finale, because this is where because obviously he has the armor now. So unless maybe Mando comes to Boba to seek maybe some work or something, which could be a
Yeah,
possibility, I think, as well. So it'd be cool to see what they do with the Mandalorian, see if any crossovers happen with that as well.
yeah. I mean, especially down the road, how many seasons they intend on making for Book of Boba Fett. Obviously, it could very well cross over. Season 2 of the Book of Boba Fett could cross over with season 4 of The Mandalorian, or something down the road. Um, But yeah, I mean, even as early as Mando season 3, we could see Boba Fett for like a crossover episode. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think anything's on the table. And after we got both Ahsoka and Luke Skywalker in Mandalorian season 2, uh, we know that Star Wars and Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have came to play and use all of the characters that they can and do it right. Like not just force them in there for just random purposes, but to really do them right. So I think anybody could show up, really.
Definitely fact, because this is literally just a few years after Return of the Jedi, so there's definitely a big chance. Unless, what is some we might. It'd be kind of cool to see if maybe Boba might get it, because the sequels take place wait a few years, I think, after like the Mandalorian, all that take place. So it'd be interesting to see, unless they try to pull stuff like Princess Leia. I doubt they would, because I don't really know where she might fit in. But we might see like other bounty hunters come into the scene that we might recognize. Cause like in Rebels we got to see Hondo, and then we might even like because we mentioned maybe Han and Chewie making us like cameo, maybe even seeing Lando pop in every for a minute or two. I don't know. It'd be cool. It's just there's a lot of possibilities that can happen with this series. I'm definitely excited to see what they do with it. So we definitely know Dave Filoni and them will make the right choices for this.
I mean, they already got the ultimate cameo with Max Rebo, um, playing his instrument in the there. Um, I mean, he's out there thriving. He's out there thriving,
Oh
and
yeah.
we love to see the something that my dad said after we had watched it my second time. His first time this morning was he just loves the kind of old fashioned uh, style of bringing it back to Tatooine, where it all started in A New Hope, and that's something that my dad really loves is where they make so many callbacks to where it all started for him as a Star Wars fan, and then for me as a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
Um, and even the Obi-Wan series is expected to take place somewhat on Tatooine as well. So characters that we meet there could also uh, way
Mm.
later show up maybe in a way in the Book of Boba Fett. So it's all connected. It's just a matter of how many years between each show and movie that they
Yeah.
they make, and it's interesting though because like we said right now, it's any character could show up, any cameo, uh any level of surprise. I don't count off the table considering we actually got Luke Skywalker at the end of Mandalorian season 2.
Oh yeah. And, like in the coolest way possible too. It just comes in and absolutely obliterates all those droids. But that is another episode for another day. Definitely, like just like honestly excited just to see that this was being released and then finally being able to see it. Like we said, there are definitely a lot of possibilities that can happen here, and definitely excited to see what they do. Anything else from you,
Me,
sir?
um, I mean, I think we've definitely jumped around a little bit, but I
Just
think
a
we
little
hit
bit.
all of the just a little bit. I think we hit all of the
Just a
high
wee little
notes, but
bit.
I mean, I guess I could ask you just based off of first impressions, and obviously it's just today was the day that it released, so it's still a new episode, but what would you rate it on a scale from 1 to 10?
Honestly, especially like for the hype and everything that I was getting, I would definitely give it I would say a 10. I know it's the first
Yeah.
episode, but there were so many things in it that we have like people have been wondering for a while. All those flashbacks were helping like tell the story of what happened after Return of the Jedi, and then jump into the present, showing him on Tatooine, starting to like make his footprint in Mos Eisley and in that area. So it was definitely a great, in my opinion, epic first episode.
Sir, I totally agree with that. I mean, I would definitely think it ranked up there, and I it just made me more excited for the next one.
Exactly. Same here. It's like, I know we keep saying it, but it's so true of all, and I mean all the possibilities that could happen. Because even in the process, we might even see some, like, not just Mando from the Mandalorian. We might see other characters from the Mandalorian pop up over to here, which would I think would be also pretty cool as well. But we won't know until the rest of the series releases one by one.
Slowly and surely, in due time.
And on that note, that is where we are going to end it here today, guys. Hope you guys had a great Christmas, and we will see you in the next one. Peace out.